What's up, guys? Wukong. It's probably gonna be a little bit on the longer side, but I'm doing this video basically mostly because I feel like there's a lot of people like me who were just thrown off by the first episode of the Goddess Arc for the world God only knows, because so much had been skipped and whatnot. So I'm gonna be making this video, which is my review of the world God only knows Tenri Arc OVAs, and I'll also be making another video in a little while, like a couple days or so, just reviewing the chapters that are skipped between Season 2 and Season 3 of the world God only knows. So for those of you that don't read the manga and don't plan on reading the manga, or don't feel like watching this Tenri OVA, you'll have some information to carry you into the rest of the episodes for the Goddess Arc. Anyway, let's jump into it now, my review and everything. The Tenri Arc OVAs were really well done. Manga really didn't cut any corners in making these OVAs. And me personally, I'm not really somebody who likes to be forced to watch an OVA in order for story to be filled in. Like, I hate when I have to watch an OVA after the original series has ended just to get like a conclusive ending, or like this, having to watch an OVA to fill in some pieces. And back in the day, I used to really dislike OVAs like that. I mean, nowadays I really actually love watching OVAs from time to time, especially if I'm really into the series. So this wasn't a chore for me. I was really interested in watching this and I really enjoyed it. I'm going to be recapping this a lot so I can get the story filled in for those of you that don't plan on watching it or haven't read the manga. And you want to know a bit more about Tenri, as she, filled up that first episode of the Goddess Arc. She's all over it. So basically, in the Tenri OVAs, what happens is it's summer vacation, and the homie Katsuragi is ecstatic because he has, as he says, 1,000 hours to play video games, to complete his virtual conquests and what have you. He's super excited, and he's like, I haven't seen LC in a couple days too, so none of this loose soul bullshit will be getting in my way. Right off the bat, I was just like, yes, this is good. This is the world God only knows. Nothing, no deviation whatsoever. This is awesome. And from what I can tell, these OVAs really did stick close to the Tenri arc of the manga. I still haven't read it yet, and I'm going to be reading those chapters in the intermediary, like I said, in the next coming days. So I'll talk about how close it was after I read those. But it seemed really good. It gave me a lot of background on Tenri. So basically, he's on a summer vacation. He comes home, tells his mom that he's going out to buy games and whatnot. Don't expect him. And waiting at his house with his mom are Tenri and her mother. And apparently the background for these characters is they used to be old namers of the Katsuragi household. They lived like right behind them, and Keima's mother and Tenri's mother were friends. But when you introduce to Tenri, she's just a really shy girl. She has this habit of popping bubble wrap and whatnot. Which is really funny, and she claims to not remember Keima, because Keima claims to not remember her. And Keima's just, really excited to go play his video games and whatnot, so he's not really trying to deal with this. And Tenri just seems really shy. She doesn't really respond to anything, and she just has her habit. And I was really confused as to how they didn't know each other, because I had heard before that they did know each other. I was like, why don't they remember each other? What's going on here? I had a lot of questions, but the anime kept rolling. Keima went to buy his games and whatnot, and they eventually some other stuff happens. What happens though is Elsie comes back from wherever she was, and her loose soul little alarm thing goes off on her little skull beret or whatnot, and when she's by Tenri, so she's kind of like, there's something wrong. Tenri probably has a loose soul in her, and Keima's just not having any of that shit. He's just like, fuck, I'm going to buy my games. And then when he's at the mall, they run into Tenri, who for the first time is taken over by Diana, which is the Megami, the goddess inside of her. And she pushes Keima down the escalator, who eventually recovers and is like, what the fuck? And then, you know, there's a lot of switching back and forth between Tenri and Diana in this, and Keima at first doesn't like understand that there's switching taking place, so he's just like, what the fuck is wrong with this girl in the first place? And then he thinks that it's a loose soul, like causing this split personality in her, before finally realizing that it's Diana at the end. But you know, that goes down. There's just a lot of back and forth, lots of, you know, staple the world God only knows comedy in there, of a lot of funny jokes. We're introduced to oh wait, let me finish that real quick. So then, after she pushes down the escalator, Diana has a little monologue and whatnot. Kim was like, what's going on? And then they end up like parting ways. We're introduced to two new demon, or just one new demon, my bad, and her buddy in this OVA, who I'm not sure if they're gonna keep making appearances in the Megami arc or not. I'm sure that there's more to them than just this one instance, so you should know about them. Nora is another one of Elsie and Hakoa's little co-workers, if you will, who is in charge of capturing Lusos as well, and her buddy, I believe his name was Ayama Rio or something like that. And Nora is pretty much this like badass, fuck this love and romancing them type of thing. She just gets her job done as quickly as possible through just eliminating the object of the people's, you know, gaps in their hearts that cause Lusol to come through in the first place. Basically her raiment, which is the little thing around that wraps around them and shit, like allows her to display what the deepest desire is of the person that with the Lusol and whatnot. And basically, after figuring that out, she just goes on a warpath trying to eliminate it. So for Tenri, when she runs into Tenri and she thinks that she has a loose soul in her, she displays it and it's Keima, and she's like, alright, I'm gonna go take this nigga out. So, and Ayama Rio, her buddy, is just kind of like this soft, pretty boy kind of romancing figure who doesn't really do much the whole time except for sometimes get in Nora's way, and it's just really funny. But anyway, Nora goes and captures Keima, and during the capture, she has him like tied up and whatnot, and she starts torturing him instead of killing Keima, because she doesn't really want to kill him, because if you kill Keima, then Elsie will die also. So instead of killing him, she decides to torture him and destroy the object that he holds most dear, and she projects that, and it's fucking Yo-Kyun from that game, Yo-Kyun, that he bought that one time, that weird looking, weird drawn, pink haired 2D girl that he just like fell in love with for some reason or another, and she like distorts her and makes her look like some sort of zombie type figure, and Keima goes ballistic, breaks free, chases her down. It was just really funny. A lot of funny things happened in this OVA. Eventually Keima and Tenri end up in this underground cave area, trying to find their way out and whatnot. And Keima remembers, oh, like this happened sometime before, and you get a flashback to their past, which finally fills in, you know, how Tenri and Keima know each other. It's basically, he remembers that they were neighbors and whatnot, and that one time they were going to school as kids, and they stopped off at this boat or whatever, and there's an earthquake, and it gets stranded a little ways from the mainland on this island. They go down into this cave area, and they're stuck down there. And they're remembering all this, reminiscing Tenri's, filling him in on all this. And then she, basically, you find out Diana takes over, and you find out when Diana and Tenri met, which was, they were like a horde of loose souls, or Weiss, as we've been calling them now in the Megami arc. And Keima gets knocked out, so that's why he doesn't remember any of this going on. And Diana, Tenri doesn't know what to do. She's trying to guard Keima from the loose souls and whatnot, and Diana appears before her, and they form a little contract, and she enters her body in order to save them and gets them out of there by controlling Tenri. Still don't get any clarification as to why the Megami are on Earth or anything. Diana doesn't really say anything about it, but you do get like the foreshadowing here of stuff that begins to take place in the Megami arc. So, it seems as though this is a really good intermediary OVA in terms of transitioning us and giving us information for the Megami arc. But yeah, you find out how Diana actually came to be inside Tenri and how Keima and Tenri knew each other, and on all of that you get that background, and it was just really cool. After that, they set up some false loose soul thing to fool Nora into thinking she caught the loose soul, and in doing so, Keima and Tenri end up kissing, faking the whole exorcism thing, and Tenri faints because Tenri's in love with Keima, like, since they were kids and whatnot. I forgot to mention that. So she faints because of that. She's so happy. Diana takes over, and she's like, yeah, I'll explain the rest of this shit later on, and dips off. And at the end of the OVA, Tenri's family, moves back in next door to Keima and whatnot. And so that's how it gets set up as such that Tenri is Keima's neighbor now in the Megami arc, and how they know each other and their history with, like, him knowing Diana and whatnot. So that really filled in a lot of information for me watching this OVA. And I really enjoyed it. It was really funny, classic, the world God only knows. I really love the character of Tenri now. I liked her when I first saw her in the first episode of the Megami arc, but I just didn't know anything about her and I wasn't feeling it. And now that I have this background, I really like characters like these shy kind of girl characters. Sometimes they piss me off, but Tenri doesn't, because of the fact that she has Diana inside of her, so she has that split personality that can be all rough and aggressive and whatnot. So I'm really loving Tenri's character overall, and I can't wait to see how she factors in with Diana in the Megami arc and whatnot, and as a possible future end for Keima in terms of relationship. I would lean towards Tenri. I do have my favorites from the first 2 seasons in terms of conquests and girls and whatnot that I would also like to see Keima eventually just end up with. But Tenri is also a good pick for that for me now. And I'm just really loving her character. Love the OVAs. You guys should really check them out if you're a World God Only Knows fan. And if you're just confused and need some background information for this Megami arc, check this OVA out. It'll fill you in on Tenri and Diana, and just, show you about Nora and what have you, so you have just information about these characters going in, and some background information as to Tenri and Keima's relationship. OVA is just classic World God Only Knows, like I keep saying, just all the tropes and stuff that are throughout the series. Keima and his video games, Yo-Kyun, the demons, the new demons, Elsie, Nora, chasing down loose souls, even though there's not really any loose souls except for that horde in the flashback in this. And you get the Diana's introduction and everything. So it's just really informative and really funny, as World God Only Knows should be. Not really gonna address any particular jokes. You guys should just watch the OVAs, honestly. And if I had to give them a score, I would give them 7.5 out of 10. Maybe an 8 out of 10. But I'm just going to stick with 7.5 out of 10 because there were some issues in terms of, minor animation issues here and there, a little bit of lack of fluidity. But, they're OVAs. And Manga did the best job that they could have. And I love the EDs that they chose. 2 Eyeless songs really made me start to like Eyeless. I hadn't really listened to much of them before, except I know they did some other stuff, other soundtrack stuff for World God Only Knows in the past seasons, and I had heard of them from there, but starting to get into a little bit more Eyeless thanks to those EDs. The music was great in these OVAs and everything, and the animation could have just been a little bit better. I expect a little bit more from the World God Only Knows, but it was still great, and great OVAs. 7.5 out of 10. Hope this was informative for those of you that don't plan on watching it or don't plan on reading the manga and love the World God Only Knows first 2 seasons and are watching the Megami arc, because if you're confused just like I am, this helps in filling in some of the blank spots. I'm definitely going to be doing a review for the manga chapters that are in that intermediary period as well, so if you don't plan on reading those again, check out that review so you could get some information going into this Megami arc for Monday's second episode. That's pretty much it, guys. Check this out if you have the time, and if you're a World Golly Nose fan. That's pretty much it. Peace.